Sunday, March 10th, 2024, Liverpool hosts Manchester City in what could be the final meeting of Jurgen Klopp's and Pep Guardiola's managerial careers. Now, that's not to say that their paths will never cross again, because obviously the FA Cup is still in play. And beyond this season, who knows what happens when Pep leaves City and Klopp ends up managing another side in the future. But there's a lot to discuss in terms of the momentum going into this game, the possible lineups, the injury news. I'm going to dissect it all, give you what you need to know leading into the fixture. And yeah, let's just get right into things, starting with the reverse of this fixture. Manchester City won, Liverpool won at the Etihad earlier this season. As always, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and give the video a like if you end up enjoying. Let's get right into it with the lineups for both sides, because that's a key thing to consider here. As for City in their 3-2-4-1 that they lined up with earlier this season, they had Ederson, Ake, Diaz, Walker, Rodri, Akanji in the midfield, Doku, Silva, Alvarez, and Foden ahead of them, and then Erling Haaland by himself up top as the sole striker. For Liverpool in a 4-3-3, they had Alisson, Kostas Tsimikas, Virgil van Dijk, Joel Matip, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Curtis Jones, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Jota, Nunez, and Mohamed Salah up top leading the line. And the key thing for both sides is the lack of their, at least in this iteration of their squads, they're holding mid. Obviously, City have Rodri, but Rodri looks far better alongside John Stones than any other center back or possible CDM partner that might play alongside him in this formation. So for Liverpool, that would be Wataru Endo. He didn't even play. I mean, he did play in this match. He played from the 85th minute when he was subbed on to the end when Liverpool had already equalized against City. And he wasn't really, I don't think, settled in the squad yet, but now he is. And him playing at DM will allow McAllister to get forward a bit more. And honestly, I mean, John Stones will also allow that midfield of Cities, that front midfield four, I guess, to push forward a lot more as well. So it should be an end-to-end game. There's a lot of news in terms of injuries for both sides. Salah is back in training. He should be on the bench at least, I would assume, for the Sparta Prague Europa League game for Liverpool. There was a Twitter rumor, and I hate that I have to even bring this up, but it's something to consider. Kevin Kelleher possibly out with injury. Obviously, Alisson Becker's already out, so that's not the best of signs for Liverpool. But Kevin Kelleher has been brilliant, so I feel comfortable with him in that going into this fixture, about as comfortable as I could ever be with him, because he's honestly shown nothing but class since he's stepped up for Alisson in lieu of his injury. But, if he is out and we have to start Adrian, that changes a lot of things. Let me be abundantly clear. But I do think Kelleher is fit to my knowledge. There hasn't been any official reports on that. I think it was just some bogus Twitter rumor. But because we're talking about lineups here, might as well bring it up. Beyond that, the key kind of things to look for in this fixture is honestly just the personnel that both sides will have. Obviously, that's a very kind of reductive way of putting it, but some of these players are in molten hot form. Phil Foden, for example, he's been brilliant. KDB, Haaland, brilliant. Virgil van Dijk has been at his, well, I would say towards some of his best football that he's ever played for Liverpool, honestly. He's been absolutely fantastic, scoring big goals when they matter. Joe Gomez as well has been incredibly versatile for Liverpool. And beyond that, I don't think that there's any huge injury news for either side. Curtis Jones, I don't think, is still in the squad for Liverpool. Neither is Trent. And I mean, obviously, Liverpool have a long list of possible, players that they could have chose for this upcoming fixture, but they're not going to be in contention regardless. There's going to be a lot of youngsters on the bench, I would assume. Also, a key thing to mention, Jadon Danns, who has been fantastic. He wasn't in training today or yesterday by the time you're seeing this video, due to the fact that he suffered a concussion with the collision that he had with Sells in the Nottingham Forest fixture earlier. So I think Jaden Danns has been brilliant. I'm honestly going to be upset if he's not at least on the bench. Obviously, if he has a serious concussion, you keep him off the bench. You don't start him. You don't play him. Let him rest up. But if it's something, I don't know the severity of it. I'm not a concussion expert. I'm not a physician or a medical expert either. So we'll see how that plays out. But regardless, Liverpool's bench will probably be mostly consisting of a bunch of youngsters. As far as records go between the two, they've had 29 meetings so far, which is a lot. This will be their 30th meeting between the two, which is kind of poetic in a way. And of the 30 meetings that they've had, there's 11 Guardiola wins, 12 Klopp wins, and 6 draws. So that's pretty evenly split. Obviously, looking at that, you would assume that Pep Guardiola, needs his fair one. He needs his win to kind of equal it up and restore kind of perfect balance to that. But at the same time, there's also a interesting kind of wrinkle that amongst the Premier League era, it ends up kind of extrapolating towards 4 draws for Klopp, 4 wins for Klopp, 5 draws, 5 Guardiola wins. So either way you look at it, either man could kind of restore some balance to those stats. So now it's time for me to predict this fixture, my lineups that I'm predicting for both sides, and how I think the match will play out. I'm very nervous, if you couldn't tell. I've been just kind of digesting the impending fixture in my head and processing it. And I think that City more than likely will line up, obviously, in their 3-2-4-1, but they'll line up with this. I think they're going to have Ederson in goal, obviously. Ake, Ruben Diaz, Kyle Walker, same back line as the reverse fixture. In the midfield, they'll have John Stones and Rodri. And then in front of them, on the left wing, we'll see Julian Alvarez. On the right wing, we'll see Phil Foden. In the midfield, head of Rodri and Stones, we'll see Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne. And up top will be Erling Haaland. Seems like the full strength City side, I would say. They're probably best 11 on paper and probably best 11 in terms of performance. I mean, Alvarez featured midweek against Copenhagen. On the left, Doku hasn't really impressed. He wasn't even in the UCL squad, so who knows what's going on there. I mean, he didn't have, I don't know, he didn't have a few good games. He wasn't good in the Manchester derby. He hasn't been on great form generally, I don't think. And yeah, I think that more than likely Alvarez will get the start. And I don't think Doku's gonna, he might come off the bench, but I don't think he's gonna start personally. For Liverpool in a 4-3-3, I have Queven Kelleher, Joe Gomez, Konate, Virgil van Dijk, Andy Robertson, Wataru Endo, Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, Luis Diaz, Darwin Nunez, and Mohamed Salah. So let me explain my justification behind all these players basically being in the squad. I feel like some of them don't need justification. Kelleher, Van Dijk, Konate, Robertson, McAllister, probably the whole midfield. Diaz, Salah, Nunez, I don't think they need any explaining or anything like that. But I do think that to some extent, Joe Gomez needs a bit of an explanation. Also, the reasoning I have Salah in is because he was training, and if he features off the bench against Sparta Prague, maybe he could be fit to start against City. And I mean, it's the biggest match of the season. He'd want to start that, right? But for Joe Gomez, I think he's been one of the most underrated players for Liverpool this season, one of the most important players for Liverpool this season, and pretty consistent, versatile, all things considered. He's played left back, center back, right back. He's even featured at DM recently. I think Endo will start, though. He is fit, it seems, and he's back training as well, so that's good for him and good for us as Liverpool fans, honestly. Wataru Endo, I mean, what a player, man. But I think that this lineup for Liverpool is probably their strongest lineup leading into this fixture. It's pretty good. I mean, obviously no Trent, no Jota, no some other players that are missing around there. There's no Allison. How could I forget Allison? I mean, Kelleher's been brilliant, but Allison's obviously another big loss. there's a lot at stake. And I think that with Anfield rocking, with Liverpool being on pretty decent form as of late as well, and with City obviously being on fantastic form recently, just kind of tearing up the competition, I think it's going to be a bit of a goal fest. Not too crazy, but I'm predicting a 2-2 draw at Anfield for this fixture. I think that we'll see goals from Erling Haaland, and if you want to go Foden or Rodri, I'll say Foden. Haaland and Foden to score, and Salah and Nunez to score as well. I mean, hey, maybe I get my prediction wrong, but I'm feeling a 2-2 draw. There's a lot of draws in the Premier League era between these two, and honestly, there's been a couple 2-2 draws as well. So it's one of those things where I could see it happening. I think 2-2 draw seems like the most likely scenario. It was a 1-1 draw in the reverse of the fixture. And honestly, I'm just excited to hopefully see a good, fingers crossed with this statement, hopefully a good, well officiated match of football. That's like never guaranteed in the Premier League, but that's a conversation for another day. But anyways, those are my predictions. That's all the news you need to know as of right now. There might be some developments. If there are, I'll let you know. But as always, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Like the video if you enjoyed, and comment down below with your predicted lineups, predicted score, just general predictions for the fixture, and thoughts on what could be, quite honestly, the last meeting of Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola in their managerial careers. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.